back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary, and today's video is going to be the start of a new series on this channel called Will I Read It? This is highly inspired by Samantha March's Will I Buy It series over on beauty YouTube. A lot of beauty creators do these types of videos now. Every week they go through newly released makeup products and they talk about whether or not they're going to buy them, if they think they're interesting, if they think that they sound similar to other things that they have in their collection already, etc. Different creators have different spins on it. And I've seen people do anticipated releases, like anticipated book release videos, where they basically talk about books that they are interested in reading. I don't keep up with new releases that well, so I thought this would be a fun way for me every month to go through books that are highly anticipated by other people and talk about whether or not I am planning on reading them or whether or not they sound interesting to me, but also to give you a good idea of what the book is about by reading the synopsis and talking about it with you. And maybe if there's reviews in already, since I am doing this kind of in the middle of the month. It's actually the beginning of the month when I'm filming this, but I have a feeling it won't go up until the middle of the month. But yeah, that is the plan for this video. So I'm gonna scoot over this way a little bit so I can put the video or the books up in this corner. Or do I usually put them in this corner? I genuinely can't remember, but we're just gonna scooch a little bit so that the books can go somewhere. Because I will be putting the book covers up with these. And I am just starting with Goodreads has a list called Most Popular Books Published in 2022. So that's what we're gonna start with. And the first book that I see is It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, which is not really a sequel. I believe it's like a companion novel to It Ends With Us, but it's from one of the other characters. His name's Atlas, from his point of view. I read It Ends With Us earlier this year, and while I enjoyed that book, I do not plan on picking this book up. I'm not really a Colleen Hoover girly. I'm definitely interested in reading more of her work, but I wasn't as blown away by her writing or her like concept as I think a lot of people have been. But It Ends With Us is also a really heavy book because it's about a woman going through the cycle, trying to break out of the cycle of abuse. So that was like made it really hard to read, and that's sort of what made it interesting. I know that sounds kind of bad, but that is what made it like an intriguing premise, I guess. I didn't really like Atlas as a character. I didn't really like his inclusion in the story, which I think is controversial because I think a lot of people really do like Atlas, but for those reasons I will not be picking this up. But of course, let me know if you're interested in this one down below. Second, we have a book that I have not actually heard of, and it's called Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult. And I have read one book by Jodi Picoult, and it was My Sister's Keeper, and I read it probably over, like way over a decade ago. I think I was like 12 or 13 when I read it. But this says that it is a soul-stirring novel about what we choose to keep from our past and what we choose to leave behind. I don't know if I want to read this whole synopsis, but it's classed as fiction, mystery, contemporary, and thriller, which is interesting to me. I have a feeling this won't be a thriller based on the cover, which sounds bad, but also based on other things that I've read by Jodi Picoult. I feel like she has a tendency to write really like emotional books, like heavy emotional reads, but not necessarily, like I've never heard of her writing a thriller. But this says, Olivia knows what it feels like to start over. Her picture-perfect life, living in Boston, married to a brilliant cardiothoracic surgeon, raising a beautiful son, Asher, was upended when her husband revealed a darker side. She never imagined she would end up back in her sleepy New Hampshire hometown, living in the house she grew up in and taking over her father's beekeeping business. Interesting. I'm not going to read this whole synopsis to you, but it sounds like, and I don't know how much of this is spoiling the actual book and like what happens, but it sounds like a mother and her son relocate to New Hampshire at the same time that this teenage girl relocates to New Hampshire with her mother. And the girl and the teenage boy sort of fall in love, and then the girl dies. So maybe that's supposed to be like the thriller aspect. Yeah, it says it's a riveting novel of suspense, an unforgettable love story, and a moving and powerful exploration of the secrets we keep and the risks we take in order to become ourselves. So that actually does sound interesting to me. I might put this on my list to like consider later, but I don't know that I'm like necessarily dying to read that, but I'm glad that I did this video specifically so that I could see that. Next up, we have Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng, which I believe she's also the author of not Big Little Lies, Little Fires Everywhere, that's what I was thinking. I have not read a Celeste Ng. I do plan on reading one eventually. I've heard pretty good things about them, but I've also heard that they're kind of all the same, so I would be interested to see if this is also like that. And this is also classed as literary fiction, contemporary, and sci-fi dystopia, which intrigues me. I do love dystopia as like a subplot. So this says, Our Missing Hearts is an old story made new of the ways supposedly civilized communities can ignore the most searing injustice. It's a story about the power and limitations of art to create change, the lessons and legacies we pass on to our children, and how any of us can survive a broken world with our hearts intact. So this sounds pretty good. Okay, it comes out, I should be saying this. This comes out October 4th, so it is already out. Mad Honey came out also on October 4th. It Starts With Us is going to be published on the 18th of this month, so keep an eye out for that if you are interested. But this one sounds like it's about a 12-year-old girl. Just kidding, 12-year-old boy. His name is Bird. That's why I didn't know if it was a girl or a boy. 12-year-old boy, and they're in a, like, near future America with their lives, for a decade, their lives have been governed by laws written to preserve American culture in the wake of years of economic instability and violence. So this does sound like it's going to be kind of a political read. I don't always love when the politics is, like, so dead on what we're going through right now. I don't necessarily only read for escapism, but, like, I can enjoy, like, a political fantasy or politics in that sense, but sometimes it's a little too close to home. So, I don't know if I'm, like, not interested in this book, but I also don't know if I'm dying to go out and read it, if that makes sense. Okay, this next book actually sounds really, really good to me, and it sounds a lot like that movie Ready or Not. That's kind of what this sounds like to me. I don't know if it's going to be exactly this, but this is called The Family Game by Catherine Steadman, and it says, a rich, eccentric family, a time-honored tradition, or a lethal game of survival. One woman finds out what it really takes to join the 1% in this riveting psychological thriller from the New York Times bestselling author of Something in the Water, Mr. Nobody, and the Disappearing Act. I've never heard of Catherine Steadman before, but I am absolutely going to be reading this book. This sounds so good to me, and I love the, like, faux neon on the cover. I think that's really pretty. Next, we have a new Barbara Kingsolver book, and I have actually read 2 Barbara Kingsolver books. I read Pigs in Heaven, and I read The Poisonwood Bible. I really enjoyed both of them. I own another Barbara Kingsolver that I have not read yet, so this is called, oh, sorry, I forgot to say, Family Game also comes out on October 18th. Sorry, I will try to remember to say that. But Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver comes out on the 18th as well. And this says, set in the mountains of southern Appalachia, this is the story of a boy born to a teenaged single mother in a single wide trailer with no assets beyond his dead father's good looks and copper-colored hair, a caustic wit, and a fierce talent for survival. So it sounds like this is supposed to be like a retelling of sorts, or like inspired by David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, which I have not read, but I would like to at some point. But I am interested in this one. Not as much as I'm interested in The Family Game, but I do plan on putting this on my list. This book, I don't know what it's about. I've just read the title, and it's Hester by Laurie Lico Albanese. I think is how you say her name. I don't really know. This sounds, because Hester Prynne is, like, from The Scarlet Letter. I'll have to read and see if that's right, but I would be very interested if this is a retelling of Scarlet Letter, and it is, one of the genres on it is historical and retellings. And I love the idea of, like, a modern I mean, obviously it would still be set back then, but, like, a book written now that examined things with, like, a modern viewpoint, if that makes sense. So let me read the synopsis to you. So it's going to be about this woman, Isabel Gamble, who is a young seamstress carrying generations of secrets when she sets sail from Scotland with her husband Edward in the early 1800s. And Edward is an apothecary who has fallen under the spell of opium, and he has a pile of debts that forces them to flee Edinburgh? I don't know. For a fresh start in the New World. And then days after they've arrived, Edward abruptly joins a departing ship as a medic, leaving Isabel penniless and alone in a strange country. And then she meets a young Nathaniel Hawthorne. Oh, interesting. So Nathaniel Hawthorne is who wrote The Scarlet Letter, so it sounds like this is a fictionalized account of the woman who inspired The Scarlet Letter. I'm definitely gonna want to read this. This sounds really, really good, especially given my love of Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell that I read this year. This sounds just, like, right up my alley, so I'm really excited to read this. This comes out on October 4th, so it already came out. Very exciting. I'm gonna put this on hold for my library, probably. The next book I'm not so sure about. It is The Atlas Paradox by Olivie Blake, excuse me. A lot of people love this series. The Atlas 6 came out last year, I believe. And I think these books were originally indie published and now they're being traditionally published, or at least the first one was indie published originally, I think, and then it got picked up by a publisher. This comes out on October 25th, which is my birthday. Very exciting. I don't know that I'm that interested in this series, to be honest with you. It's adult, which I did not know. I thought it was young adult for some reason. But it's like a fantasy dark academia book, I think. And I think the first one, at least, I'm not going to read the synopsis since this is a sequel, but I believe the first one follows 6 people who are trying to become apprentices at the Library of Alexandria, and they have magic or something. I don't know. Dark academia sounds interesting to me, but also some of the storylines don't sound that interesting to me. So I'm not, like, totally discounting reading this, but I'm definitely going to read the first one and decide if I like it. And also maybe read the first one, if that makes sense. So I know a lot of people are really excited about this though, so let me know if that's you. Now we have another companion novel to a book that I have actually read, which is exciting. The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera. The premise of They Both Die at the End is that there's this thing called the death cast, which lets you know 24 hours in advance of your death that you will be dying that day. And They Both Die at the End, they have this app that you can use, and that's how the boys like match up and meet, is so they spend their last day together, and then there's like a little bit of a romance between them. I really liked that book. I thought it was very cute. I don't know if I would like it now. I did read that 2.5 years ago, I think. But The First to Die at the End is about the original, like the first death cast. So I already have a theory about what happens in this book, but it's the prequel, and it's about, again, two boys who meet and like sort of have a little romantic connection thing, but then only one of them gets the call, and one of them has a serious heart condition, and the other one, I think his sister died in a car accident or almost died in a car accident. And so he registered for the death cast as well. Yeah, his sister nearly died in a car accident. I have a feeling I know which of them is going to die. It came out on October 4th, so it is already out. It's 560 pages, which seems like a lot, because I'm pretty sure the first one was like 300 pages. I don't know. I'm interested in this because I did think like death cast was an interesting idea, but also I don't know if I'm at the point in my life where I'm going to care about this kind of story. This is one that I like might keep my eye out for, but I also don't know that I care that much. Next up, we have an Elle Kennedy book, which is a sequel to a book that I read either earlier this year or last year, I can't remember. But it's the second book in the Avalon Bay series, and I think the first one is Good Girl Complex, and this one is Bad Girl Reputation. So these are like standalone romances that are part of like the same universe. I'm interested in this. I didn't love Good Girl Complex as much as I think some people did, but I also listened to it as an audiobook, and I never really loved listening to romances as audiobooks. So maybe if I read this one physically, I would like it. This comes out on October 4th as well. It already came out. Yeah, this is another one that I wouldn't like rush out to read, but I'm definitely like interested for when I like want a romance, if that makes sense. We have another book that was released on October 4th, and that is Jackal by Erin E. Adams. This says, a young black girl goes missing in the woods outside her white Rust Belt town, but she's not the first and she may not be the last. It's watching. So this is very exciting. It sounds like it's going to be another one of those like political type thrillers where it examines race really closely, which is something that I'm very interested in learning more about. I am going to say that I'm interested in reading this. It's by Erin E. Adams. I don't know if I already said that. But this is classed as horror mystery thriller. So I am really excited for that, and I'm going to go ahead and move it up on my list. Let me know down below if you are excited for that as well. I feel like I've also heard really good things. It only has a 3.99 right now on Goodreads, which I'm always skeptical about like the early reviews, to be honest with you, but we shall see. Next we have a book by Cormac McCarthy, who wrote one of my favorite books that I read in school, and then I never read anything else by him. So he wrote All the Pretty Horses, which I absolutely love, and he also wrote The Road, which is a book that's like a dystopian post-apocalyptic book that I never read, but I would really, really like to. And this book is the first in a series. It's called The Passenger, and it says, 1980, Pass Christian, Mississippi. It is 3 a.m. when Bobby Western zips the jacket of his wetsuit and plunges from the boat deck into darkness. His dive light illuminates the sunken jet, 9 bodies still buckled in their seats, hair floating, eyes devoid of speculation. Missing from the crash site are the pilot's flight bag, the plane's black box, and the 10th passenger. But how? A collateral witness to machinations that can only bring him harm, Western is shadowed in body and spirit by men with badges, by the ghost of his father, inventor of the bomb that melted gas and flesh in Hiroshima, and by his sister, the love and ruin of his soul. This sounds really, really good. It's a historical mystery, literary fiction, blah, blah, blah. Comes out on October 25th. Don't know if I already said that. And this is also going to go on my list of books that I'm interested in reading. Next up, we have a sci-fi dystopian book called Poster Girl by Veronica Roth. And this is 288 pages. All right, so this says, Sonia Cantor knows the slogan. She lived by it for most of her life. For decades, everyone in the Seattle-Portland megalopolis lived under it, as well as the constant surveillance in the form of the Insight, an ocular implant that tracked every word and every action, rewarding or punishing by a rigid moral code set forth by the delegation. Okay, so this again sounds pretty interesting to me. I do have a couple of books like this already on my radar, so I don't know how soon I will be getting to this, but I do like this type of thing. It's very 1984, if you will. It's also similar to a book that's on my TBR for October, which is No Man. It's right here. I have not picked it up yet. I'm definitely not like, ew, that sounds terrible, but I'm also not like running out to buy it. Next up, we have my favorite cover so far. This is giving me big, like, what was that book? The YA sci-fi dystopian that I read last year. like the eco dystopia thing about the sisters. I don't remember, but it's giving me the same vibes. This is called If You Could See the Sun by Ann Liang. This is a YA fantasy. Comes out on October 11th, 2022. So I don't know how interested in YA fantasy I am, but I'll read this synopsis real quick. Okay, so it's about a girl who discovers she has the power to turn herself invisible, and she decides to monetize basically her invisibility because her parents can't afford to pay her tuition for school, it sounds like. And then, but as the tasks escalate from petty scandals to actual crimes, Alice must decide if it's worth losing her conscience or even her life. So this does sound interesting to me. Honestly, I probably won't pick this up, but if you have read it, let me know if you liked it. And then I will probably wait for reviews on this one. This is one of those that I'm like, not super intrigued by the premise, but I do think it's interesting, and I've never heard of anything quite like this before, so you'll have to let me know if you're interested in that one. Next we have a John Grisham book, A True Arkansas Homie. John Grisham writes courtroom, like, fiction. I don't generally read those. I'm an attorney, so it's not interesting to me to read that. Courtroom drama, that's what it is. I have liked some of John Grisham's books that I've read in the past, but I don't know if I have like a desire to read a legal thriller at this point in my life. So that's what I mean, it's a legal thriller. It comes out on the 18th again. So yeah, I'm not interested in reading this, but if you are, or if you like it, let me know how it is. Probably not for me. I probably won't be picking that one up. So next up we have what looks like, ooh, this. I don't know if it's a romance, but it's a queer contemporary featuring lesbians, which I love. So this is Mistakes Were Made by Merrell Wilsner, and it comes out on October 11th. It's sexy rom-com about a college senior who accidentally hooks up with her best friend's mom. I'm gonna read this. That's all I need to know. Next up, we have The Hike by Susie Holiday. This is already out. It came out on the 1st. And it says 4 hikers enter the mountains. Only 2 return, but it is a tragedy or treachery. Mystery thriller. Ooh, it is sisters traveling with their husbands. I don't know who returns. It doesn't say. I'm actually interested in reading this one. That sounds good. I hope you don't find out who makes it down the mountainside until the very end, because then the whole time you would be like, did the sisters kill their husbands? Did the husbands kill their wives? Did the one husband kill his wife, and so that they could be together, and the other girl killed her husband, so that, you know? Very intriguing premise. Very intriguing premise. Honestly, it sounds like a 3-star read, but I think I'm interested in having that experience. But you'll have to let me know if you've read that, since it has been out for a while. Maybe people have read that. So next, another book coming out on October 11th. This is called Signal Fires by Danny Shapiro. This is a historical fiction, literary fiction, contemporary. Again, it doesn't really make sense to me when it's contemporary and historical fiction, but that's fine. It says, one night, one fateful choice, a constellation of lives changed forever. It opens on a summer night in 1985. 3 teenagers have been drinking. One of them gets behind the wheel of a car, and in an instant, everything on Division Street changes. Each of their lives, and that of Ben Wilf, a young doctor who arrives on the scene, is shattered. So, I'm not interested in this book, frankly. It doesn't really sound like something that would be up my alley. I'm probably not gonna look out for it. It doesn't sound that good to me, so I probably won't be reading it, but let me know if you are interested in that book. Next up, we have Partners in Crime by Alicia Rye, which comes out on the 18th. This is Indian matchmaking meets date night in this fun romantic adventure in which a match-made couple about to be engaged gets caught up in a caper that puts their future and lives in danger. That sounds cute. I would read that. I don't know that I'm like dying to read this, but I'm definitely interested. And I like the way it's like describing the characters. It says, at 35 with a stable job as an accountant, Mira wants nothing more than to find a boring man to spend the rest of her life with. Having had enough excitement in her younger days and desperately trying to escape her dysfunctional past, she turns to a matchmaking app, specializing in Indian American singles to help find her someone to settle down with. Enter Naveen Desai, an English professor with an uneventful, normal, and dare she say it, boring life. Naveen is perfect. And then sounds like something goes awry. This sounds cute. This sounds funny. I would read that. Next up, we have Built to Last by Erin Hahn. This comes out on the 18th yet again. This is another contemporary romance, and it says, Shelby has spent the last 10 years trying to overcome her past, sending it away like she does the rough spots on the vintage furniture finds she makes over. I can't read. So she flips furniture. Oh, it's on a TV show. This is like an HGTV show romance. So it's her and this guy Cameron, who's her co-star, and then also was her childhood sweetheart. So this again sounds like a second chance romance. I'm interested in that. I'm not like, again, I'm not dying to read it, but I would definitely pick that up from the library at some point, probably. Here's another one. This one I'm not really that interested in. I've heard really good things about this graphic novel series. It's Olympus. The 3rd volume is coming out by Rachel Smith. And I've heard people really like this. I like the art style a lot. I just don't know that I care to read a Hades and Persephone graphic novel. I'm not a big graphic novel person in the first place. Again, the art is beautiful, and you'll have to let me know if you pick this one up or if you plan to. Next up, we have Night of the Raven, Dawn of the Dove by Roti Rotra. I don't know how that name is pronounced. I really apologize. This is a YA fantasy, YA historical fantasy. So this says, to learn what she can become, she must first discover who she is. So Katyani's role in the kingdom of Chandela has always been clear, becoming an advisor and protector of the crown prince, Ayan, when he ascends to the throne. Bound to the queen of Chandela through a forbidden soul bond that saved her when she was a child, Katyani has grown up in the royal family and become the best guardswoman the Garuda has ever seen. But when a series of assassination attempts threatens the royals, Katyana is shipped off to the Gurukul, of the famous Acharya Mahavir as an escort to Ayan and his cousin, Bhairav, to protect them as they hone their skills needed to be the next leaders of the kingdom. Nothing could annoy Katyani more than being stuck in a monastic school in the middle of a forest, except her run-ins with Daksh, their son, who can't stop going on about the rules, whose gaze makes her feel like he can see into her soul. Okay, so a land infested with monsters. She has to find answers from her past to save all she loves and forget her own destiny. Bonds can be broken, but debts must be repaid. I will wait for reviews on this one. Again, I'm not super into YA fantasy these days, but if it gets good reviews, I could be interested in reading it at some point down the line. It doesn't sound like something I'm dying to go out and read right now. I have quite a bit of backlisted YA fantasy that I do know that I want to read still, or I think I want to read still, that I should probably get to before getting to this, but you'll have to let me know if you're interested in that one. Next, we have The Last Chairlift by John Irving, which comes out on the 18th. This is almost 1,000 pages. And it's literary historical fiction, so I can already tell you that I'm not interested in reading it, but you might be. So it says that it is a ghost story, a love story, and a lifetime of sexual politics, which is interesting. Yeah, I'm not interested in that. I don't know. I feel like that's not a very good synopsis. Or maybe the point is to be vague, but it's not listed as like paranormal or anything, so I don't think they're real ghosts, which means that my interest has waned, unfortunately. Oh, this is funny. I just finished a book by this author. So the next one I'm going to talk about, I guess, is Lavender House by Lev A.C. Rosen. I read Jack of Hearts by this author recently. I finished it literally on like Friday, I think. I think I finished it yesterday, which is like a YA queer contemporary. It was cute. I'll talk about it more in a wrap-up soon, I promise. But this is, God, another historical mystery, but this one has a queer twist, so that might be more interesting. And it's set in 1952. The family seat of recently deceased matriarch Irene Lamontagne, head of the famous Lamontagne soap empire. Was that a full sentence? I don't know. Irene's recipes for her signature scents are a well-guarded secret, but it's not the only one behind these gates. This estate offers a unique freedom where none of the residents or staff hide who they are, but to keep their secret, they need to keep others out and now they're worried they're keeping a murderer in. Very interesting. I'm kind of interested in this. It does sound like it could be kind of like kooky and cheesy, but we'll see. I don't know. It's got a 4.08 so far. I don't know if Lev A.C. Rosen's like writing style necessarily really clicks with me. That's how I felt about Jack of Hearts, at least. But I am interested in giving their work another shot, so this sounds pretty good to me. Another October 25th release is Sign Here by Claudia Lux, and this is a darkly humorous, surprisingly poignant, and utterly gripping debut novel about a guy who works in hell, literally, and is on the cusp of a big promotion if only he can get one more member of the wealthy Harrison family to sell their soul. This sounds funny. I would read this. This is like a horror comedy. I like that. I'm not going to read any more about it. I like the cover. It sounds good. I'm not going to like go out and buy that today, but I think that's a funny concept. Okay, here's another book that I can already tell you I'm probably not going to read. It's called No Strangers Here, and it's the first book in the County Kerry mystery series by Carleen O'Connor. It also comes out on the 25th, and it is a mystery thriller set in Ireland. I just don't really care for mystery series usually. I don't know how like intrigued by this. I guess if it gets really good reviews and I start hearing about it, maybe I would be interested, but right now it doesn't sound like it's for me. Next we have A Cosmic Kind of Love, which is another contemporary romance, and this comes out on the 18th. It's by Samantha Young, and it says, space is the last thing an event planner and an astronaut need in this charming new romantic comedy. So when event planner Hallie receives party inspiration material from the bride of her last wedding project, the last thing she expects to find in the files are digital videos from Darcy's ex-boyfriend. Who's Darcy? Okay, whatever. Hallie knows it's wrong to keep watching these personal videos, but the guy is cute, funny, and an astronaut on the International Space Station to boot. She's only human, and it's not long until she starts sending emails and video diaries to his discontinued NASA address. But it says that he starts getting forwarded the emails from NASA. So it sounds like it's going to be their, like, romance over screens. I usually like this kind of trope. I don't know that I'm, like, dying to read this book, but I definitely would pick it up if I saw it and I was in the mood for a rom-com, so I might jot it down for that purpose. Next up, we have Before I Do, which looks like another contemporary romance. And the tagline is, what would you do if the one that got away turned up the night before your wedding? I don't know if I want to read this. I don't really love, like, cheating stories, or I don't know that there's going to be cheating, but I don't know how I would feel about this book. So it says that she only spent one amazing day with her, like, what if guy. So that could be better, but I don't know how I feel about this whole concept. I will wait for reviews on this one. Let me know if you're interested in it, of course. Next up, we have Blackmail and Babinka, which is Tita Rosie's Kitchen Mystery number 3. This sounds like it's the third book in a cozy mystery series. Christmas time in Shady Palms. Things are far from jolly. Her new business is looking to turn a profit in its first year. Blah, blah, blah. I assume someone dies. That's what I'm assuming. And then she's got to solve the mystery. I don't hate cozy mysteries by any means, but I have some that I'm interested in reading that I need to get to before I try to expand into a bunch of different things. I've also never read the first 2 books in the series. I've never even heard of this series before. Let me know if you have and how you feel about it, but it's going to be a pass for me at this point, and that comes out on October 4th if you are interested in it. Next up, this also was published on October 4th, and that is One Woman's War by Christine Wells. Again, it's a World War II historical fiction, which is not always my favorite thing, but it's also classed as spy thriller, and I also don't usually like those books, although I really liked Life After Life by Kate Atkinson, which has some of those elements in it, although that book is about a woman who keeps reliving her life over and over again. Every time she dies, she's born again, basically. So she make different decisions, and I think that's the part of that book that I liked so much, and honestly, I don't know that I would like that book on reread, to be honest with you. So, this says she works for M15, investigating fifth column activity among the British elite at parties and nightclubs. And so years before, she agreed to work for German intelligence and spy on the British. So it sounds like she's a double agent, and there's 2 extraordinarily brave women, and their lives are going to collide. Again, I'm not that interested in this book, but you'll have to let me know if you are. Next up, we have another historical fiction called Such a Pretty Girl by T. Greenwood. This also comes out on the 25th. It says it explores the often flickering line between woman and girl in this vividly lyrical drama alternating between a West Village artist community in 1970s New York and present day, as a former child actress is forced to confront the darkest secrets of her youth when a controversial photo taken of her as a preteen on the night of the 1977 blackout ignites a media firestorm. That actually does sound pretty good. That sounds really interesting. I'm definitely going to put that on my list because that sounds like the type of thing that I would like to read. So it sounds like it's going to be sort of exploring like womanhood and coming of age, especially how that has evolved over time, and probably female sexuality, which is something that I'm always interested in reading about. Next up, we have on October 18th, Grey Warren by Maggie Stiefvater, which is the 3rd book in her Dreamer trilogy. I'm not going to read the synopsis because I don't know what that trilogy is about. It looks like it might be another wolf shape-shifting trilogy. There are wolves on the cover, but it is a YA queer fantasy, urban fantasy. I know Maggie Stiefvater also wrote The Wolves of Mercy Falls, and I have the 1st book in that series that I have not read yet. So you'll have to let me know if you're interested in this or if you like this series. I've never heard of it before. Yeah, I would be very interested to know if it's something that you're interested in picking up. This one is another contender for prettiest cover, in my opinion. It's Darkroom Etiquette by Robin Rowe. Comes out on the 11th, and it's being published by Harper Teen. I don't know if you care, but it's a YA horror thriller. And it says, 16-year-old Sayers Waite has everything until he's kidnapped by a man who tells him the privileged life he's been living is based on a lie. Trapped in a windowless room without knowing why he's been taken or how long the man plans to keep him shut away, Sayers faces a terrifying new reality. To survive, he must forget the world he once knew and play the part his abductor has created for him. That sounds really good to me. Honestly, it sounds like it might be a 3-star, but it could be a 5-star if it's handled properly. I'm interested in that, for sure. Next, we have A Scatter of Light by Melinda Lowe. And this is another masterful coming-of-age queer story, this time set against the backdrop of the first major Supreme Court decisions legalizing gay marriage, almost 60 years after the end of Last Night at the Telegraph Club. Oh, this is the author who wrote Last Night at the Telegraph Club. That's very interesting. So, okay, I haven't read that. This is another YA queer historical book. Historical fiction. Gay marriage was legalized in 2015. Are we considering books written in 2015, or like set in 2015 historical fiction now? Okay, so apparently the characters from her other book are in this book, so I think I would wait to read this until I read the other book, but I am definitely interested in that. I feel like I've heard mixed things about Last Night at the Telegraph Club, but I don't know. I'm interested in A Scatter of Light. That sounds pretty good. Okay, the next book that I'm going to talk about is a nonfiction coming out on October 11th, and that is Visual Thinking, The Hidden Gifts of People Who Think in Pictures, Patterns, and Abstractions by Temple Grandin. Yeah, I'm not a visual thinker, so I probably won't read this book, but that's interesting if you're interested in that kind of thing. Next, on October 4th, which again has passed, is Just Like Magic by Sarah Hogel, which sounds like a Christmas romance, so I guess it's time for the holiday romances. Sounds actually kind of funny. So this is about a woman named Betty who apparently used to be, like, she grew up really rich and then her parents cut her off. And so she's still boasting an extravagant lifestyle on social media, but she's actually squatting in Colorado and her family has no idea. And this is about her trying to struggle to meet familial expectations this Christmas. And then it sounds like she gets a sort of like Christmas wish and the magic sort of goes off like badly. I don't know, something happens with it. So I am curious about this. I don't usually read like holiday romances, but I would not say no to this one. Kind of sounds like a Hallmark movie in a book, and I love a good Hallmark movie. So on October 11th, Eve by Catriona Ward. I have read both of Catriona Ward's books. As far as I'm aware, she only has 2 books out, and I've loved both of them. I gave both of them 5 stars. Sundial I read this year, and then last year, The Last House on Needless Street was probably my favorite book of the year, or one of my top 10 favorite books of the year. But this is another, this is a gothic horror though, and it's historical. She writes really weird fiction, which is something that I really enjoy. But this is a heart-pounding tale of faith and family with a devastating twist. And I'm definitely gonna read it. I want to read it so bad. I did not even know she was coming out with something else this year, but I desperately want to read that book. So again, I am sort of like, Catriona Ward is sort of an author for me now, so I'm very excited to read that one. Next up, we have Anywhere You Run by Wanda M. Morris, and this comes out on the 25th. And this says, it's summer of 1964, it's a historical mystery thriller. Summer of 1964, and 3 innocent men are brutally murdered for trying to help Black Mississippians secure the right to vote. Against this backdrop, 22-year-old Violet Richards finds herself in more trouble than she's ever been in her life. Suffering a brutal attack of her own, she kills the man responsible, but with the color of Violet's skin, there is no way she can escape Jim Crow justice in Jackson, Mississippi. Before anyone can find the body or finger her as the killer, she decides to run. With the help of her white bow, Violet escapes, but desperation and fear leads her to hide out in the small rural town of Chillicothe, Georgia, unaware that danger may be closer than she thinks. Back in Jackson, Marigold, Violet's older sister, has dreams of attending law school. Working for the Mississippi Summer Project, she has been trying to use her smarts to further the cause of the Black vote. But Marigold is in a different kind of trouble. She's pregnant and unmarried. After news of the murder brings the police to her door, Marigold sees no choice but to flee Jackson too. She heads north, seeking the promise of a better life and no more segregation. But has she made a terrible choice that threatens her life and that of her unborn child? 2 sisters on the run, one from the law, one from the other from social shame. What they don't realize is that there's a man hot on their trail. This man has his own brain of dark secrets and a disturbing motive for finding the sisters that is unknown to everyone but him. This sounds really, really good. I do really want to read this. This is going to the top of my list as well. I love a story about like families, specifically sisters and siblings. I think that's very, very interesting. I love sibling interaction in books. And I don't know, this sounds very like suspenseful, and I like the like analysis of the time period too, so I'm really looking forward to that one now. I am running out of battery space, so I'm trying to power through a couple more of these. So next we have Strike the Zither, which is Kingdom of Three, Book 1 by Joan He, who wrote that book that I was talking about earlier. That's who the author was. So this is another YA fantasy, historical fantasy. The year is 414 of the Qin dynasty, maybe Qin, I don't know. And chaos abounds. A puppet empress is on the throne. The realm is fractured into 3 factions, and the 3 warlordesses, so female warlords, hoping to claim the continent for themselves, but Zephyr knows it's no contest. So, interesting. An epic YA fantasy about found family, rivals, and identity from New York Times and indie bestselling author Joan He, inspired by 3 Kingdoms, one of the 4 classics of Chinese literature. I'm interested in this. I probably won't rush out and pick it up right now, but I would definitely wait for reviews and see how they are. I know my last Joan He I was very excited for and kind of disappointed by. I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was very YA to me. But this one sounds really interesting, so I would definitely be interested in picking it up. Next up, we have another book. This is published, or was published on the 6th of October, it looks like. And this is another Christmas romance. It's called The Christmas Spirit. And it says 2 lifelong friends decide to trade places in the week before Christmas and end up falling in love along the way. Great, so it sounds like The Holiday. I would read this. I'm not absolutely going to run out and read it right now, but that sounds cute. Sounds good. Let me know if you are excited to read that one. Next up, we have another mystery horror. This one has a paranormal twist, which I not always, but I do tend to enjoy. It's called Mouse House by Megan Shepherd. It came out on the 4th, excuse me. And it says, 1 step away from our world lies another, a land of violent fantasies, of sharp-toothed delights. So we're following an aspiring artist who is reeling from a divorce, and she is clearing out her late father's remote seaside house. Where have we heard that before? Sounds like beach read. And, oh, this has a book within a book. I don't know how excited about this I am anymore. Okay, it has a book within a book, which sounds kind of similar to The Starless Sea, which I DNF'd recently. I don't think it'll be like that, because this is going to be obviously very different. That and The 10,000 Doors of January are both books within books with Portal Fantasy that I didn't end up enjoying. So, we'll see. I am interested in that, though. So it sounds like she finds a book of short stories, and the short stories are, like, another, like, universe that's, like, very sandwiched with ours that you can slip through the cracks and get into, which is, again, a trope. That's a trope that I like. So, we'll see if I want to read that one. My phone keeps flashing at me. So we have another historical fiction, 3 spirited wives in 19th century Utah, 1 husband. Ooh, a sister wives book. So I was originally going to say I'm not interested in that, but I might be. This is on Kindle Unlimited. It came out, or it is expected to come out on the 11th. It's called The Fire in the Ore by Olivia Hawker. It's also classed as a Western. I probably won't read this. I'm not that interested in it, but let me know if you are. On October 25th, they are coming out with another book about Abraham Lincoln. It is called And There Was Light, Abraham Lincoln and the American Struggle by John Meacham. This is a biography of Lincoln. There are a lot of biographies of Lincoln out there. I would probably do some research to figure out which is the best one if I was going to read a biography of Lincoln, but you let me know if you are very interested in reading about Abraham Lincoln's life. Next up, on October 18th, Paris Dalencourt is About to Crumble by Alexis Hall comes out. Alexis Hall wrote husband material and boyfriend material, I believe. I've not read any of their books, but I believe they're partially indie, or sometimes indie published, sometimes traditionally published, and they write romance. This is a queer romance. It's the second in the Winner Bakes All series, so I assume that's a series of standalones that follow the same, like, concept. It sounds cute. I don't know if I'm, like, dying to read this, but you'll have to let me know if you are. I've not read any Alexis Hall, so if you have, please let me know where the best place to start is. I would assume boyfriend material, because that's the book that I've heard the most about, but also I don't know what tropes are in that one. Next up, we have Her Hidden Genius, a novel by Marie Benedict. This comes out, that was already published earlier this year. On the 27th, we have The Odyssey, by Stephen Fry, which I believe is just Stephen Fry retelling mythology. I don't know if it's even retellings. It says it is. So, let's see. This is going to be 400 pages, and it's following Odysseus after he leaves the fallen city of Troy and takes 10 long dramatic years battling monsters, blah, 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 to voyage home to his wife Penelope on the island of Ithaca. I don't know if Stephen Fry, I've not heard of this thing that he's doing. I don't know. I think I would wait for reviews of this as well. That's not something that I'm, like, super intrigued to read, but of course let me know if you are interested in it. Next up, a book that came out on October 4th again is a holiday romance. This is a queer holiday romance, and it says You Are a Mean One, Matthew Prince by Timothy Janovsky. It sounds like it's going to be kind of like The Grinch. It says bring a little joy to the world, not today, Santa. So again, it sounds like it's going to be like Grump Sunshine, cuteness around the holidays. Again, if I am in the mood to pick up a holiday romance, there seems to be a plethora of options. This one might make the cut, it might not. I will await reviews, but you will have to let me know if you're interested in that one. I do love The Grinch as a story, so I am interested in that little reference, but we'll see. Next up is a book that I actually am really interested in. This book came out on October 4th, and it's called Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison, and it says, a young woman in need of a transformation finds herself in touch with the animal inside this gripping, incisive novel from the author of Jackal and The Return. I've not read anything from this author before, but I've heard really good things. This is like a horror fantasy, and I believe it's about a woman who turns into a werewolf, and it's supposed to be, it says it's a darkly comedic love story. It's a brilliantly layered portrait of trauma, rage, and vulnerability, and that sounds perfect to me. I also love this cover, so I'm definitely going to pick that one up. I'm really, really excited for that one. That's one that's definitely on my list. Next up, we have another historical fiction queer rep book. This comes out on the 11th, and it's called Daughters of the New Year by E.M. Tran. It says, a captivating novel that moves backwards in time to trace 5 generations of Vietnamese mothers and daughters, drawing on Vietnamese zodiac astrology to chart the fateful events of their lives. I am really interested in this. I've never heard of this before right now, but we all know, if you've been around here for any length of time, I love a multi-generational family story. I love that it's told backwards. This sounds really, really interesting and right up my alley, so I'm definitely going to be picking this one up. Let me know if you are interested in it as well. And since I've been filming for over an hour, my battery keeps flashing at me to stop talking. I am going to listen to it just this once and stop. But those are like 65 books, I think, 50 books, because some of them already came out and some of them were cookbooks and etc. That I saw on Goodreads that are coming out in the month of October. Please let me know what you are most anticipating in the comments down below. My most anticipated are those that Catch You on a Word book. I already closed my laptop, so I can't remember what all these things are called. It's Eve something. The one, like the family game or whatever, that one sounds really good. And then the one about the like Vietnamese multi-generational family story being told backwards for 5 generations. Those are the 3 that I'm probably most anticipating now, but let me know what your top 3 are, or 5 or 10 or whatever, or just one, whatever you're planning on reading. Also, I hope you guys are having a really great day. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you wanted to see more videos from me, and I will talk to you very soon in another one that hopefully won't be this long. Bye!